Happy Monday morning, crap bags. I'm back with another Leafs report. Poor Hutchison. Honestly, this poor guy. He hasn't got a win yet, and they're definitely not helping him out any. Back-to-back situation from Toronto to Chicago to have a Sunday night hometown hockey matchup with the Blackhawks. And the Leafs have had a lot of weird, incomplete kind of performances this year, and that explains why they're only 3 games above 500. And this was another one of those games. They got off to, like, the first couple shifts were okay. The pace seemed to be good. Both teams seemed to be into it, and then the Leafs got an early power play when Muzzin absolutely clocked Saad with a great hit. Just as he was catching the puck, he timed it perfectly and just crushed him. And of course, it's a clean hit, so Taves has to respond and horse color Muzzin. It's unbelievable. But anyways, they got an early power play. Didn't really get much going, and the first few minutes of the game were just kind of like that. They're even, not in a bad pace. But then all of a sudden, the first period, the Leafs just, like, it was 5-on-5, and it's like the Hawks were on a power play the entire time. The Leafs could not do anything. And because of that, they went down early, big. By the end of the first period, it was 4-1. The Hawks would strike for 3 goals early in the first period. And there was not much the Leafs could do. And it wasn't really Hutchison's fault. There was bodies in front. He couldn't see stuff. One of them was deflected. Like, it was just... The poor guy must be going, like, when the hell am I going to get a win? Like, he's got rotten luck so far. The guys aren't helping him out any. And it's just another one of those games for him. So... the Leafs, it was 3-0 at one point later on in the period, and Nylander scored to kind of make it 3-1, and that seemed to kind of stabilize them for a bit. But then probably my least favorite part of the game, one of the Hawks, I can't remember who it was, he got hit somewhere in the head area with a shot from his own player, and right before he got hit with the puck, him and Justin Holl were kind of tied up, and they kind of were getting some separation from each other, and the ref was right there. He was right there watching it, and for some reason thought that when this guy got hit with a puck, it was Hall's fault or something, and he was pushing him over. I don't know. He called it an interference, and it was just the most blatantly blown call of the entire year that I've seen so far. And of course, Chicago scored on the ensuing power play, which made it 4-1. That's how the first period ended. And I was livid, but at the same time, like, there's no use raging about it because this is just the way things seem to be going this year, right? So, second period, the Leafs started. There was no damage. There was nothing, no scoring in the second period, and they seemed to really stabilize the ship and started gaining some momentum. And then in the third period, all that momentum kind of carried over and finally hit some pay dirt. They scored 2 goals to cut the lead to 4-3, and it looked like they were steamrolling their way back to a victory. And then unfortunately Chicago would score a late goal. Again, another, like, in tight in front of the crease, kind of tip in, a nice cross crease pass that, Hutchison couldn't do much about. But the Leafs would pull their goalie and get another goal to make it 5-4, just like with still almost a full minute to play, and they kept pressing and pressing and pressing with Hutchison out, but they just couldn't get the equalizer, which again goes back to the first period and that blown call by the ref that kind of ended up costing them everything, right? If that hadn't happened, who knows? That power play goal wouldn't have been scored for sure. And who knows? The game may have gone 4-4 to overtime, right? And they could have at least scraped a point, if not 2 out of it. So those are the little things that happen, especially early in the season, and as you're coming up on April in the playoff race, and you look back and say, oh, we're going to miss the playoffs by a point. And well, remember that Chicago game when the ref blew the call? That could have been it, right? Like, any one of those little instances along the way could mean the difference between your team making the playoffs and not making the playoffs, right? So it's frustrating, but also, you gotta kind of learn from it and move ahead and not dwell on it and just help it try and make you better, right? So hopefully they can put that game behind them and and get some wins and get rolling, and hopefully eventually get Hutchison a win on the next back-to-back situation. He's got to get a win at some point. Like, this is crazy. But outside of all that, like the Chicago-Toronto matchups, because they're both such highly skilled teams over the last few years, have been like unbelievable. They all seem to end in this kind of a score. I think last year there was like a 7-6 game that went to overtime, and they all seem to be. I mean, this game was kind of exciting at times and not exciting at times because the Leafs were such crap in the first period. But as the game got on, they just got better and better, and it just became this amazing thing to watch with all the talent on the ice and all the chances and stuff. So, and the other thing is that the Leafs, they not only steamrolled the Hawks in the third, like they outshot them like something like 20-something to 6. Like in the end, the Leafs had almost 60 shots on net by the end of the game. Like you wouldn't have guessed that's the way it was going to end at all by watching the first period. So they really did a lot of damage in that second and third period. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get them a win, but at least they didn't roll over after that first period and go, oh, we'll just mail it in and get back to practice and try and turn things around for the next game. They actually dug down and played really hard in that second and third period and were almost rewarded for it. So that's it was an exciting game to watch. Too bad they couldn't get the win. But that's the way the NHL goes with the teams so close together nowadays. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night. And any game can turn into a track meet on any given night either. So that's it for now. I haven't checked the schedule yet. This week's going to be a crazy week, so I may be watching games. I may not be. But either way, I'll check them out and put in my 2 cents for what it's worth. My 2 cents is probably worth 1 cent's worth. But anyways, that is all for now. Sayonara.